Thank you. Thank you. We've been pursuing a question for the last couple of talks, and that is basically what gets in the way of our innate innate ability, our innate capacity to receive love and give love. What gets in the way of that? And uh, you can expand that to so what gets in the way of our innate capacity to receive and give peace, joy, and love. Those three is a kind of inner holy trinity of experiences, uh, of energy frequencies that you can't find anywhere else. It's on the inside. You won't find, if you're looking for love out here, you may run into, you know, pleasantries and conditional love, but real unconditional love starts in here and goes out from here. Uh, Same with joy. Same with peace. Now, happiness, for instance, contentment, those can be found in the outside world. You know, all of a sudden everything breaks in your favor. You know, you win the lottery, you get the job of your that you've always been wanting. You meet somebody that's just marvelous. You make new friends. There's all kinds of things that you can get happiness, but it comes and goes as things on the outside come and go. You see, nothing wrong with happiness. Uh, we have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's not bad, but that's all in the external world, and that is the world that comes and goes. And so, happy one minute, uh, crestfallen the next, sad the next. My great big brother, my brother-in-law Jim, is in hospice now, and he's on. He's ready to transition out of this body and mind. This brain we'll be talking about, but the consciousness will go with him. Everything tells us that it's not material, so it won't come and go. Everything material will come and go. This pen I'm using to write, it's not going to be here forever. But we're talking about the brain today, and I think the reason that this book is so helpful, and I'm going to show the for you guys on YouTube, or if you came in late, you didn't see. I'll put the screensaver up in a minute, but we're talking about what gets in the way of these things we're really longing for. Peace. I mean, why is the world such a mess? Why so little peace? Why so much war? Peace, joy, love. This is the big three, and they can't be found out in the world. If you find them inside, then you can broadcast the energy of these three things into the world. And that's really comes, that if you're looking for a purpose in life, as far as I'm concerned, that's it, you know. And so this book, Whole Brain Living, that I'm going to give you an overview of, I'm going to actually read a few passages from it just to. I think she's Jill Bolte Taylor. She's got not only points to what gets in the way, but she points to what you can do about it. Yeah, how you can remedy that, what you can do about it, and it all has to do with the brain. Um, this book covers it's if you had time to watch the TED talk of my stroke of insight, well then you'll know that this the woman who wrote this book a couple of years ago, Whole Brain Living, Jill Bolte Taylor, she was a neuroanatomist. In other words, she was in on the real cellular biological study of the physical part of the brain. She was a neuroanatomist. If you haven't seen this or don't know anything about her, if you came in just now, she just a little thumbnail of what's in this 18-minute TED talk. 30 million people now have seen this TED talk all over the world. Uh, she had a stroke. She was a neuroanatomist who had a stroke over 4 hours in one morning. In over 4 hours, she lost connection with her left brain entirely. And then she lived for 5 weeks solely in the left brain. She had golf ball size kind of blastoma that over those 4 hours bled into her left brain and shut it down. Uh, Very few people survive that. And very few people are neuroanatomists who go through that. She thought it was sort of cool, but then she realized this was serious. Uh, and imagine spending 5 weeks just in the right brain. And if you watch that TED talk, you'll get a sense of what she learned there. Eventually, the left brain started coming back, and it took 8 years to get it back. After, it was after that that she gave the TED talk, and that was 16 years ago. So this book, Whole Brain Living, is talking about actually tapping into the entire brain. And she comes on three levels. She's talking about the biological level. There's things that she knows about the cellular part of the brain that, as a neuroanatomist, we don't know. I'll give you a little overview of that. Psychological level, and then the spiritual level. She puts all these three together because the brain contains all these three things. We don't think of the brain, the physical brain, as having a connection to the level of spirit, but it does, and we'll talk about that. People have asked me over the 4 years, the sign just over my left shoulder, not true. They're saying, well, what does that mean? And why is that there? Well, it's an ultimate truth. Um, it's not the same. Not two-ness is not to understand. Not two is not the same as understand one. And the brain is the best example of that. Uh, and so I'm going to put up the screensaver now for folks listening, or who didn't see it. Folks listening on later when it's posted on YouTube. I'll put up the screensaver. See now the way, and this is one of the illustrations for the book. She has some really cool illustrations. So you're looking at the left brain and then the right brain, and they look like two, and actually they are separate. And back some time ago, when one of the things they did for people who were having strokes, uh, which are in a way kind of emotional, chemical, electrical storm that comes from the right brain to the left brain. Um, they actually split the brains. They cut the what is it, 300 million axonal fibers. They actually connect these two halves of the brain called the corpus callosum. And so all the information from the body and the heart and everything else comes into the right brain, and then uh, it goes through the corpus callosum to the left brain. So that they are two, but they're really not two. They were two when they cut those fibers and connect them, and then you lost the ability of one to talk to the other. And they did a lot of very interesting split brain experiments there. And but the brain is two, but it's not two also because it's connected. You can communicate between it, and that's what you don't see in there. The 300 million fiber optic axons that connect the two, and that's what we're really trying to do in a whole brain living, is to connect with the left brain and the right brain, and actually our original idea that we had two brains was a little crude. And she's going to talk about the fact that we have in each, the left and the right brain, an emotional brain on the very bottom. That's the dark shaded area in there. The emotional brain is there, and then the thinking brain or the cognitive brain is above. So really, it's not two; it's four. We have on the left brain a thinking uh, component, the higher thinking thing, reason, whatever. And then we have the emotion, and the same with the right brain. There's a part of it that's connected in both senses, right, to the brain stem and the reptilian brain. So we really have four. And she's going to break down these, what she calls the four characters. So if you look at the book title, The Anatomy of Choice, and the four characters that drive our life. We're not aware of, I was sort of you know, educated when I was born 75 years ago. I was educated in the left brain. Most education, even formal education, and the higher you go, is more and more left-brained. What does that mean? Well, it means we sort of understand that, but we don't have much sense of that. Now, we didn't start that way. This is just an neuroanatomy. Uh, the first 6 months of our lives, every one of us, it could vary. Could be 5 months, could be 7 or 8 months, but around 6 months, uh, something happens. Uh, we Before that time, we can't. It's if you listen to the TED talk. At one point, when she lost her left brain, she couldn't tell the difference of where her body ended and that the shower tiles in the shower were. It was all one, and there was no sense of separation as infants for probably 5 6 months. We don't know where mommy is and where I start. Now, around 6 months, we get a higher level of the left brains developing, and we get what's known as a sense of separation. The separate self comes online. Oh, there's mommy, there's me. We're not the same. We're not connected. We think that's a beginning of uh, the personality, the persona, as these four parts of the brain, the thinking and emotional parts of both brains, they have a characteristic, they have a personality, and to get to know that, uh, you can have sort of when things get in the way of what you're looking for, love, joy, peace, especially if it's those things, you can pull a conversation between these four parts, but you got to get to know them. So that's what we're going to do first, is sort of get a sense of a little snapshot of each of these character one, as you see up there in the left brain, is the thinking part of the left brain, and character two is the emotional part of the left brain, and that's called character two. And then we'll talk about character three, the emotional aspect of the right brain. When I learned this, I thought just left brain was all thinking, right brain was all emotion. Um, it's not exactly right. And then the character four is the cognitive level of the right brain, which you could call wisdom. You could call awareness, would be a good way of talking about what the right brain bring. Whenever you hear the word awareness or wisdom in spiritual traditions, the right brain is where that's coming from. So we're trying to put the whole package together, or actually recognize that the whole package is together today. So I'm going to read you, and really this is part of the way to where we actually can choose in each moment. She says peace is only a thought away. It's true. It's true. As is joy, uh, as is love. But we can get all tangled up, especially in the lower, the emotional left brain, is a stopper for the ability to explore these. It's crucial. It's a beautiful part. Our brain is a beautiful thing. It's whole. It's beautiful. It's just incredible. So all of these parts, they have a purpose. So I'm going to talk about, just give you a little snapshot of each one, the characteristics of these. Now we'll start with the character one, which is the thinking part of the left brain. And Jill Jill Bolte Taylor, she gives names to each of these parts of the brain so that you can start to relate to them, as if, because they do have a personality, as if they're persons. Well, at first I was resistant to most of this stuff, and I didn't really even know where the resistance was coming from. But oh, maybe another system or something. How many systems you need or whatever. But I thought it was a little corny that you would give names to these four parts, but it's really wonderful and totally helpful. Okay, so character one, which is the thinking part of the left brain, and we'll give you some characteristics of that. She calls Helen. and we'll double back to that. But this is Helen because it's this part of the brain is hell on wheels. That's why she calls it hell on wheels to get shit done. And this is the beauty of the left brain. Things need to be done to survive. You got to get bananas. You got to, you got to pay the rent. So she calls this part Helen, and it is from Jung's point of view. This is the persona. This is the separate self. This is the me. We think that is separate from everything else. Here's just a few of the high points of this character. This part of the brain organizes everything. You know, uh, you alphabetize your CDs. It's part of me in the morning that it cleans up the kitchen before I get started, or maybe at the end of the night. I have a really strong left brain, even to the point where it thinks things should be perfect, which is also, if you're a perfectionist, it's coming from this part of the brain, and that can get in the way as much as anything else for uh, you know the accessing and handling the mystery of life, because life's not perfect, it's a mess. I'm going to take this down now. I think you got the idea. We'll just be able to go for it, but I'm going to stop to share and get you guys back in the picture. uh, so it organizes everything. That's a part of yourself that wants to organize things. It categorizes things well. Some people have all their clothes in the closet in certain order. My gay nephew had a long wall-like closet. Black suits, black shoes, brown suits, gray suits. It was amazing. He had that part of himself. It's neat. Appearances matter to this part of the brain, and all of us are stronger or have a more stronger hold to it or lesser. But we're just given sort of the high points here. It plans well, and plans are important. We're setting out for Italy in a week. In a week, we'll be flying out to Milan, and so plans had to be done. I leave that to my daughter Elizabeth. She loves trips. She's a strong left brain too, and she's planning it all, getting all the details done. This part of the brain respects authority. Uh, this part of the brain is where the judge lives. And somebody asked me, I'm a 1 on the Enneagram too, and they said, "Well, what's that like? Can you give me in a few words?" I said, "Yeah, judgment in pants. Judges everything. It's either good or bad. It's that part of ourselves that just makes those distinctions. And again, none of this is good or bad. It's just where it comes from in your brain, you see. Okay. Um, uh, for a long time in my marriage, it was more important for me to be right, and if not right, to win the argument with my wife than to be in love with her or to have some peace in the family. This is the thing, that it's more important to be right than to anything else. And that's thank uh, thank God that's I got a handle on that, at least a little bit of a handle. Detailed brain, this left brain is detailed based. And this one's a good one. The left brain counts everything, and it's measuring all the time. I see that in myself too. Whether it's the number of stairs I descend, the amount of money in my wallet, or someone's failures, it's the part of you that keeps track. Okay, and that these are all survival based, but when it's all you have, it can get in the way. It depends on, it's all right. We need a certain amount of security, a certain amount of affection and esteem, and a certain amount of control in life to function. And that's what we really needed as a kid: safety, security, affection and esteem, and then a sense of power and control. By the time we get to be two, me do it, all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. That's what we need to survive. But when it becomes an addiction, when you have to be right, when you have to be in control, control's a big thing for a guy like me. And most of the fights we got into, and most of my mania growing, getting to these 75 years was just about control. Uh, and it's protective though. There's part of the brain that protects people uh, that you love. It's a part of the brain that will protect my bunch of people. We're right and they are wrong. Yeah. So that's a little bit about that. There's much more in the book, but I'm just wanting to give you sort of, if you resonate with anything, you just know where that's coming from. That's important if you want to, when things get in the way, when control gets in the way, when this is the part of you where the whole left brain is where racism lives. When she lost her left brain, she lost the ability to be a racist. Now let's go to the emotional left brain. Now this is actually, if when you don't, if you get a lot of insight here, because this is really this is where all the reactive emotions come from, and there's nothing wrong with them, especially because the left brain is the emotional left brain is what Jung would call the shadow. It's mostly unconscious. See, we had this brain for 6 months before, and it was developing before we actually developed higher consciousness, reason, and whatnot, long before we had reason. And we still have it. And it's sort of, it's unconscious and it's sort of what Jung called it the shadow. Other psychologists this is what they call the wounded child. These were the wounds, the traumas that the child experienced, and they're still there. They will always be there. The emotional part of the left brain has one question. It's the dominant question there. Am I safe? And a terrific survival value, obviously. Am I safe? And so it deals with everything in terms of safety. It's the part of you that is looking for danger. This is the part of you where anxiety lives. Okay. Uh, both the higher and lower parts of the left brain, they're linear. Time exists in the left brain. That's why when she lost her left brain, she was in the present moment only. She didn't have yesterday because she had no memory. She didn't project into the future. She was living for 5 weeks just in the now. And it was euphoric. It was blissful. It's why guys use certain drugs to get out of the left brain, and it's euphoric and whatever. That's okay. Uh, but so these are all time based. So the emotional, the anxiety that lives in the lower emotional left brain is immense because it's always looking into the future, which is a great gift. But when you're looking into the future in terms of, well, gee, what are the risks in the future? Well, there's a reason that anxiety is there. Because you can predict certain things and you can be on the lookout for certain things. But here are some things that come with it. Anger, name calling. If you get upset and can't resist calling your nasty names, my character too has possessed my brain and is out of control. It happens. It happens. There's nothing wrong with it. We just have to know where it's coming from, and then as we get beyond these snapshots, we'll talk about what you can do about it. My wife helps me out with that. She says, "You're yelling at the screen. He cannot hear you," she says. I say, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah." In these moments, this is, when really you're going berserk or overwhelmed, it could be positive, it could have all kinds of flavors to it. This is exactly where you have to know how to intervene yourself. And I'm learning that. This is the part of your brain that deceives. She says, when my left brain character two decides that it's going to tell a lie, it tells my right brain to not show our deception in the tone of my voice or an expression on my face. At this point, my right brain will either cooperate or give me away. We'll talk about the right brain emotional thing, but it's when you tell a lie, it's coming from that point. This is the part of this that feels guilty. You feel bad for not sending that sympathy card, for not helping that little old lady across the street. Uh, then your character two is online. Internalizes shame. This goes along with negative self-judgment, and shame is one of the most detrimental. Guilt isn't. Guilt is actually can make you healthier, but shame, mm, feel as though I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of being loved. Then your character too is firing out, and you can intervene there. That's the point. This part of us loves conditionally. Yeah, I'm generous with my love only when people are doing what I want them to do. This is how character two loves conditionally. The negative self judgment, that voice inside that tells us we're not worthy of total joy and everything good, and everything good life has to alter. Um, when it speaks, this negative self judgment, when it speaks, it's usually the loudest voice that we have, and it trumps the other voices. And I bet most everybody knows that. But you know where it's coming from anatomically now. What you do about it, we'll get to. Oh, anxiety lives here. When I'm filled with fret and worry about something that could possibly happen, I feel horribly uncomfortable inside my skin. Some people say that I feel like I just want to jump out of my body. Well, that's anxiety. That comes from here. Uh, people, uh, there's a study that my three kids are millennials, and the amount of millennials that are taking uh, um, medicine for anxiety is off the roof. Um, it's all right. I mean, the medicine is good, but why all the anxiety? Well, we'll look into that. This is the part of us that whines too. Bitches. This is the part of us that's totally egocentric. We are the center of the universe, and our needs are all that matter because we are the most important. Unless you didn't get the memo, she said. And then finally, this is the part of us that blames. It's all your fault that I'm unhappy or broke or unemployed. Now, a lot of these are you see in children, and that's why this is called a wounded child. It's basically an immature, and it can't grow out of it really. So we have to learn how to, in a way, not try to get rid of it. There's no fixing. There's no getting rid of any of our parts of the brain. You wouldn't want to do that, but there's a way that we can not let it run the moment. You see, and also this is a wounded child. It's a very wounded part of ourselves. And so we could change our attitude about it and try to sort of hold it and there and just, uh, but not let it run our lives the way some children run parents' lives. Feelings of overwhelm, hopelessness, uh, it's all part of this. So let's move to the right brain now for a minute. And we'll look at the emotional part of the right brain, which uh, Jung said, we have the persona, the me, and then we have the shadow part on the left, and then on the lower right, we have what Jung called the soul energy, anima, animus, the juice of life. It comes from that lower right brain emotional center. This in this part is this if you're forgiving, if you can forgive people. Now, if you don't have access to this, you just will not forgive. Grudges, long-term grudges live in that part of the left brain, but you're forgiving. Uh, Awe-inspired. This part of the brain exudes excitement at everything that is happening in the right here and the right now. There are people like this. There are people who live more over here, you see, and don't have a lot of access to the left brain. And we want to get access to all of it. You know, oh, this is the part of us that's playful. This is the unknown part for me personally. The lower right brain. I didn't go out to recess until the nun busted me in the fifth grade. I stayed inside and was working away, trying to be perfect, and she made me go out to the playground. But from an Enneagram perspective, this is like sevens on the Enneagram are really big in this. They have access to the lower right brain. I didn't. Meditation brought me around to that, but I never played. Uh, I just worked. Even when I played basketball, I worked at it. I worked at it. I worked harder than anybody else on the team, uh, but it was never like play. Now, if you have any empathy, this is where it comes from. I can feel your joy as well as your pain, she says. I'm able to stand here by your side because your pain does not scare me. Yeah. You wonder when you see some things going, especially on the political thing, how can these people have no empathy for what's going on all over the world, Gaza, Sudan, cut off aid to all these people. How can people have, well, they just don't have access. They're blocked from that part of the brain. Uh, Empathy. This is where your creativity comes from. Uh, Normally, and I will send notes out from this, but they're not well, they're not actually like the normal notes. I'm sending you the rough draft of the way I prepare something like this, and it looks more like this. I always start with the right brain, and uh, and so I'll actually include that this time. Normally, I just include the information uh, that's important for you that came out of this. I'm talking off of this day. I always talk off something like this, but I don't normally I'll put the whole picture in there so you see how the right brain, how it came out of this talk came out of the right brain. Uh, this is the joy part. Seven's on the Enneagram, and I taught for 30 years, 20 of the years where I knew the Enneagram. Sevens, if there's homework to do and it's a great night and people are playing basketball, I know where these guys are going to be. And it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is, They want to laugh and play. This is the curious part, too. Curiosity, our culture is trying to keep people in chains in a way. And so curiosity killed the cat, we say. Oh, that's insane. No, curiosity made the Buddha, for one thing, and it makes all of us. Let's explore this. Let's try that. Now, sevens also have a lot of that, and sometimes it leads them into dangerous areas. The three, uh, character three, can lead to addiction if you don't understand, if you don't have connections to the other sections, can lead you to addiction because more. So, uh, this is the place where hope resides. No matter what, I'm here for you, and you will go. We'll go through this together. It has that uh, solidarity sense to it, and there's a hopefulness. The hopefulness is in solidarity. I'll go through this with you. It's just totally experiential. This is the part of you, and that's really what I'm saying when we're going into meditation. We're going into experiencing, and that's why the essence of meditation is you you lay aside thinking for a while because thinking is different than experiencing. They all mesh together if you got a whole brain, of course, but it starts with experience. The apostles experienced Jesus's energy, and then they tried to capture it in words in a story. But that energy is still here, just like the Buddha's energy is still here, just like Gandhi's energy is still here, and it came from an experience. Uh, that's a little snapshot of the right brain. Much more on this in the book. I mean, she is great. Now, the last thing is the character four is the upper right brain, which is she says it's the thinking part of it, but I would call it the aware part of it, just the wisdom part of it, and uh, it is aware. When I tell people, you make awareness, awareness the master when you meditate, and thinking to serve it. That's what I mean, because awareness is bigger. Awareness is the experience right now. Thinking always happens in time. Nothing wrong with that, but you just got when you're trying to go into the sacred, into a relationship with the divine and with eternity, thoughts get in the way. Even the word eternity can get in the way. The word God can totally get in the way. Yeah, but the experience of it, yeah. And so awareness, that in awareness is we're connected to all this. That's a fundamental thing. of the whole right brain is, and if you watch the TED talk on the what she was like to be 5 weeks in the right brain, she was connected to everything. Oh, there's no separation for 5 weeks. That's a hell of a retreat. I wouldn't recommend it, by the way, but we can do it another way. Sort of, that's what meditation's about. It's expansive. The upper right brain. This what Jung called the fourth character, um, the true self, but the self with the capital S. We have he was using the terminology the Hindus use, and the upper left brain is the small s, the small self. It does create a sense of me as unique. Yeah, that's fine. But there's that sense when you connect to everything, all of this, the rain, my voice, it's all part of that capital S self. Um, it's open to possibilities and the value, the big picture of existence. It's connective. In the conscious, it's a consciousness of cosmic flow. You resonate when you're really in your this part of the right brain is that picture where you go into that sacred space that we use for an icon. It is that place, and meditation and contemplative prayer resonate with that place. There's a lot of kinds of prayer that's more mental prayer. It's not touching that space. It's trying to, but it may be pointing to it. But when you're actually in that space, uh, then you're in that part of the brain. This is the brain that's accepting, the part of the brain that's accepting. She says, I can either accept life on its own terms and feel peace knowing that everything is as it should be, or I can be attached to how I want things to be and suffer when reality does not match my preconceived notions. Yeah, that's in itself, this moment is this moment. You love just this. You you taste just this in terms of you experience just this, and you bless just this. That gets you out of the fixing mode. It doesn't mean that you don't work to pull people out of poverty. Doesn't mean when somebody's hurt you don't take care of them. No, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean detached. It does mean that this moment is perfect just as it is, and you can relate to it just as it is with compassion, with a band-aid. Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with this moment, which is hard to understand when you're in a dark night. Yeah, when the grace is fierce, as it is often. It is a blessing in disguise. This part of the brain knows that. This is authentic. This is what, I'd say you're who you are authentically. I'd say your true nature rather than a true self, but that's just mentioned with words. Character, because true self means there's a false self, and what goes on in the upper left brain is not false. It's for externals. This authentic nature is deeper. The true nature, as the Buddhists call it, or the Buddha nature, is deep within, and it informs all this. It connects all this. She says about this: character one is the persona, character two is the shadow, and even my character three, joyful energy. All those there. I own my power and step forward as my best self because this is the consciousness of the higher power that flows through me. It's the 12-step term. This is really the in the Christian language, they use the Greek word Sophia here. This is wisdom that integrates everything else. It's a kind of integral consciousness, and it's in the upper right brain. This is clarity. Wisdom and clarity are the same things in Buddhism, you see. Like I often show the jar with the diamond in the bottom, and when it's clear, you can see the diamond. Maybe you can't see it here, but maybe you can. This is clarity, and then this is confusion, and there's a big difference. So wisdom, when anybody talks about wisdom, they're talking about clarity. And she says here, no longer distracted by the workings of the external uh, world. We're clear. I'm clear in our intention to love and be loved. Our number one job in life is to love one another, period. That part of the brain understands that sentence. You know? And this is the part where you can set an intention. Doesn't matter exactly, you set an intention. I do every time I meditate that I'm going to say yes to every moment. And it might not work out that way, but this is the place that sets intentions, which is like aspirations. Uh, Character one in the left brain has goals and is hell bent to reach them. That connects with anxiety. And intention is more like an aspiration. It's more like a North Star. It's a guiding principle. And finally, this is the part of you that can be vulnerable. Uh, she says here, uh, stepping into life of this consciousness, I can step into the nakedness and stand strong in my vulnerability. One, I let you see who I am. I empower you to do the same. We've had week after week for 4 years, we've had that, especially in the community session where people come out and they say, well, they tell you really from the heart what they're feeling. And that empowers everybody else to do the same. Those of you who've been here know that. Uh, well, that's only half of my talk, but we're almost out of time. I'll tell you, I'm just going to have to go quick through this. The notes will be there. If you normally get to notes, you'll get these. And if you don't normally get to notes, be sure and just send me an email that just say notes, and I'll send these to you. But uh, I had no idea how, when you're working with the right brain, you don't really have a sense of time. And so I want to talk about the thing. This is really the beautiful thing about this book. She talks to you about when the situation arises and it even blows up in your face. Your wife walks out of the room. It doesn't. You really goof up or you don't know what to do. You can do a thing called a brain huddle, and that's when you understand we have these four parts of the brain, and so that you're there and you sort of huddle up, just the way when it's third down and 12 in football, you pull the team together and say, all right, what is our play, how are we going to navigate this? And you can do this brain huddle, and it's eminently doable. You can do it in 90 seconds and save yourself a lot of pain. And the word brain, I'll just give you the anagram of this. Uh, a brain, the word brain, she uses it to say what you do and in what order. First of all, you breathe. The 90-second rule is, especially when you have a reaction to something, somebody says a reactive emotion, uh, cortisol, uh, lots of drugs go into your system, but they clear through in 90 seconds. And she suggests the first thing to do when you're in reaction is to sit and breathe for 90. That's the B of for brain. You breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth if you can do it. I take 3 uh, deep breaths through the nose and out pursed lips, and that is about 90 seconds when you're breathing slowly and fully. First thing to do. The R of brain is then you recognize what's going on. Oh shit! All right, my lower left brain has been totally triggered. You recognize it. The A is you appreciate it. You're not beating yourself up for having this reaction, but you appreciate that there's much to appreciate about this lower right, wounded child part of ourselves that does keep us safe in some cases. And then the I is you inquire with it. You inquire, you look into it. Okay, let's look into it. What can we do? And then the N is you figure out how to navigate this moment. I've used this, even though I've only been reading this for 3 weeks. I've used this multiple times, and it is interesting. It does work, and she'll give you much more information about it in the book. This is what you do about it. Because when you're in that lower left brain of reactivity, you have no access to almost any. You don't have access to reason above. You don't have access to any of the right brain things. It's, it's a rough place to be. and to understand that and to know that there's a quicker way out of it than living like this for days, weeks, months, years, decades. You can get stuck here because there's deep wounds there. Yeah. Uh, and I was going to talk about she addresses the four, she talks to the four characters, and that's quite interesting. Don't quite have time to do that, but in the notes, I'll tell you where to find that in the book if you get the book. And finally, I'll just read the end of the book. This is where she ends with addressing the reader. And it's very much like the end of uh, the My Stroke of Insight, but she's talking to you now. When she was giving the end of the Stroke of Insight, she was talking about herself. But this is the end of the book. She says, "You are the life force power of the universe with manual dexterity and two cognitive minds. You have the power to choose moment by moment who and how you want to be in this world. Right here, right now, you can step into the consciousness of your right hemisphere where you are the life force power of the universe. You are the life force power of the 50 trillion beautiful molecular geniuses that make up your form, at one with all that is. Or you can choose to step into the consciousness of your left hemisphere, where you become a single individual, a solid, separate from the flow, and separate from me. These are the we of your four characters. Which do you choose and when? I believe that the more time you spend choosing to run the deep inner peace circuitry of your right hemisphere, the more peace you will project into the world and the more peaceful our planet will be. And I still think that's an idea worth spreading." Yeah, she says at one point towards the end, she says, "You want peace in the world? Well, there's a lot of things you can do, but basically, it starts with," she says, "we can build peace in this world one brain at a time." And that's job number one, is to, access your whole brain, have daily access with peace, with joy, with love. That's when I say, I show up twice a day, first thing in the morning, and then after my work day is done, I'll sit again and I'll do centering prayer, but it doesn't matter. You're just turning off the blender of the left brain, totally turning off the all that, and you're actually becoming more familiar with the lower and especially the upper right brain, with that connection to everything. And I'm just really grateful for 50 years of doing that. And I'm grateful for this book, which will make it easier for people to make more progress. So we'll take a break. We'll come back at the quarter after the hour and we'll sit and we'll actually go into it. And then we'll write coming out of that. And then we'll take a break. And then we'll have a chance for the community to share whatever's in your heart. Maybe not about the book, but just anything. Yeah, heart to heart. Okay, let's take a break.